Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Yeah, I'm down.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. Today we are starting a impromptu theme month. We don't do these too often outside of the end of the year, but Steve made a dope-ass suggestion, so I was like, fuck it, let's ball. So what's our theme month for this month, Steve?
All right, so based on a conversation we had at the end of last week's episode, or I guess this week's episode, who knows, we are doing martial arts theme month. So martial arts movies and samurai movies and kung fu movies and everything under the sun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't want to be too specific about it and be like, oh, kung fu movies, because then we couldn't do, like, I don't know, fucking Jason Statham or whatever.
Right.
So we're going to be as broad as possible. Just martial arts, movies where the main draw is physical combat action.
Correct.
I think what kind of brought that on was just me talking about not really giving a fuck about James Bond-esque movies where a guy with gun goes through and just kills a lot of people. And that might just be like an aversion to action, but no, fucking, it just sucks compared to how fucking sick, martial arts movies are.
I mean, I'm with you as far as like the hand-to-hand being a lot cooler to watch, but you're going to make me pick John Wick because I think that is a martial arts movie.
I mean, you can say that. No, but like generally, yeah. So we're starting this off with Forbidden Kingdom because this is just like one of those things that's lived in the back of my head for years, and I've never watched it until now. But it was just like, oh, this is the ultimate 2000s movie where they got Jackie Chan and Jet Li in the same movie together. Because like both of them, Jackie Chan was like more like popular in the 90s and early 2000s, but then he was getting a little bit older, so a lot of his movies were more like comedy focused and not really on the cool stunts and fight scenes and stuff. And Jet Li was really starting to make a name for himself in the early to mid 2000s, kind of peaked right around this point before he started aging out of it. Speaking of, I saw a picture of Jet Li just on the street, and I don't know if it's that he aged a lot or if he's just one of those people that like the second he went gray, he looked 100 years old. But damn, I think that dude aged hard.
It's funny because Jackie Chan was making movies well before Jet Li was, and I think Jackie Chan's like at least 10 years or so older than Jet Li is, but at the time Jet Li was starting to get popular, his contemporary wasn't Jackie Chan, it was Donnie Yen. They're both the same age, but if you look at Donnie Yen now, at like 60 years old, he looks like he could be fucking 25. It's nuts. And you look at Jet Li and it's like, did you have a drug problem? Did things go wrong?
Not everyone ages gracefully, man. I mean, Jet Li, put his body through hell, so that probably didn't help things.
For sure.
Yeah. No, but Jet Li, he was kind of coming up. I remember a lot of the Jet Li movies. Like, I remember being in middle school, I think, or maybe it was, like, late elementary school, and, like, watching Kiss of the Dragon, and it just had that fucking sick-ass moment at the end where it's like, I've put a pin in this pressure point in the back of your neck. You will take 5 steps and die. It's just so fucking sick. Like we were
It's
playing
good shit.
Yeah, we were playing that on the fucking playground, so it must have been elementary school. So yeah, I just remember Jet Li like getting really, really big, and so everyone was like, "Oh, who would win, Jet Li or Jackie Chan?" was kind of like the schoolyard talk. And so finally we got this movie to try to like actually get them on screen together, and I'm honestly surprised that they only got one fight. It's kind of weird. I think part of it might be Jackie Chan's had like a stipulation, similar to how like The Rock can't lose a fight. Jackie Chan's stipulation is he can't be the villain, and I don't think Jet Li wanted to be a villain either. So they just like they get a fight in here, but I do think that, you know, part of the hype might have been for one of them to just be the Jade Emperor and the other to be the Monkey King. And I think the script might have been rewritten a little bit to make the fact that neither of them wanted to be the bad guy.
Especially because, like, I remember when the trailers for this came out, and they kept teasing Jackie Chan versus Jet Li, and it would only be shots of that one fight. And it always felt like a tease because you were expecting yourself to get more, and you never do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good fight. It's very like wire fu is what I always call it, where with like that floatiness, and as this movie opened with Jet Li playing Sun Wukong on top of a fucking mountain, wire fu fighting a bunch of guys, I was like, okay, this looks like it's gonna be fun, but I dislike wire fu. I compare wire fu a lot to like the Star Wars prequel fights, where people are like, oh, these duels are so awesome. And I'm like, yeah, but it's just like you reach a certain point with fight choreography where it's so choreographed that it just doesn't feel like natural or visceral anymore. And that's kind of how I feel about like wire fu. Like it can be cool and fun or whatever, and like it's not that I don't enjoy the fantasy element to it, but it just it loses something of like that impact of the oh fuck yeah of a good fight on screen for me.
Yeah. So one of the things that's a little bit weird about this movie when you think about Jackie Chan as opposed to Jet Li is it's not Jackie Chan's style of martial arts movie. So like Jet Li and Donnie Yen, and that's why I was saying earlier, like those two are contemporaries. The kinds of movies that they made, the kinds of martial arts movies you saw in the 90s forward, and what this and The Matrix and a lot of Western martial arts movies borrow from is that wuxia style of it's wire fu, it's got a fantasy element to it, it's very classic hero's journey kind of story. It's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, it's 36 Chamber of Shaolin, like that everything that they do here is a very specific style of like the hand-to-hand combat is aided by like an operatic style of moving around on wires, and that's a thing that Donnie Yen does a lot. It's a thing Jet Li does a lot. It's not a thing Jackie Chan does a lot. And I think maybe another reason why Jackie Chan and Donnie Yen Jackie Chan and Jet Li don't get a lot of fights is because I just don't know how comfortable Jackie Chan probably was doing stuff like that against Jet Li.
Potentially. It's interesting that you say this isn't his kind of movie because it does feel like they kind of wrote him in just to be Jackie Chan because, like, in particular, having him get to do drunken boxing style. That is, like, so, you know, quintessential, like, going back to his roots, Jackie Chan.
Well,
yeah.
and okay. I don't know where you are on this movie because we're still kind of talking around it, but I really didn't like this movie. I thought it was really bad. And that's actually part of the reason why I thought it was bad, is that Jackie Chan's character is introduced as, you know, Legend of the Drunken Master style Jackie Chan. And his introductory fight has like that physical comedy, drunken, swinging his hands around, hitting people accidentally, but it's actually on purpose. And none of the other fights do, ever. After that, he's just doing the wire fu, but he doesn't have any of that same sort of like, let's follow the flow and let's get these wide shots of him kind of stumbling around and let's make the drunkenness a part of his ongoing character and style. I thought they really, really phoned it in when it came to Jackie Chan's character in this, and I think that's detrimental to the whole movie because I just don't think the action in this was very good either.
I guess I liked it a little bit more than you, but it's also because of just where I'm at right now. Again, I didn't love the action in this because of the wire fu stuff, so I would definitely agree with you on that. But just with the fact that I'm going through like all the Chinese history stuff right now, started another book today actually, and it's just kind of cool to see. Oh yeah, no, that's actually pretty on point. Hey, actually, this is this is actually a pretty good detail to capture. Just hearing like the words and stuff. It just felt like, right. Like when they say like Tang Dynasty, I'm like, oh no, I understood that. I know what that means now. It's not just a name to me. So like, I got a little bit more invested in it for that. I also kind of liked. I noticed in the opening credits, I didn't recognize many of the names, but I did notice in the opening credits that this is a very Asian, not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera centric film. So as I was watching a lot of it, I did actually begin to appreciate the subversions to, I guess what you might call the typical Hollywood decisions. So like when it opens with Jet Li and the Monkey King stuff, I was like, okay, that's all right. And then it like white boy waking up in bed, I'm like, oh, okay, well I guess I see where this is going. And then to see him like essentially the main character of the movie get to like actually do nothing of actual value made me really happy.
I mean, you're not wrong, but that almost makes me think it was less an intentional decision to subvert expectations and more just his character fucking sucked and shouldn't have been in the movie to begin with.
Maybe, but I don't know. I thought that was pretty good because like they do like the training with him and stuff. I'm like, okay, so he's gonna like get trained and then he's gonna be the one that ends up defeating the main bad guy. Like, it's not that he doesn't get any development. It's not that he doesn't get good. It's just that like he doesn't actually get to win any fight against any of the characters of note until the very end, and he gets to like fight his bad guy, but not the actual bad guys, like, or at least beat the actual bad guys. I don't know. I just kind of appreciate it, and especially like when he's getting real close to the girl that's dying on the floor and stuff. I'm like, okay, and then he's gonna kiss her and it's gonna bring her back to life. No, she just dies, and then she's back like reincarnated at the end, and it's like, oh, maybe one day, but we're not gonna show you that shit because white boy doesn't need this right now. Like, on a fundamental level, name another movie that does that, Steve.
You know what's funny though is as much as I didn't like most of the fights in this, I thought one of the better fights was him beating up the bully at the end.
Yeah, no.
I thought that one was actually pretty good because it felt more visceral.
Yeah. Visceral's a good word. I think that's gonna be the word of the evening. No, but I agree with you that like I didn't love the movie. There's like things that just kind of left me like questioning stuff. So like the Jade Emperor. He's got like the kingdom and he's got all these areas under his control and he like lives on this mountain and this oasis in the desert or whatever. Yeah, cool, great. Why are the one people that are gonna like come and stand up to the Jade Emperor and like save the heroes, why are they right next door? That feels unearned.
I just sort of felt like everything to do with the story of the Monkey King and delivering the staff back and the Jade Emperor who's evil, all of that felt so thin and phoned in to me. Where I'll be 100% honest with you. There's a point in this movie after Jackie Chan takes an arrow to the back, where after that point I fall asleep, and then I have to wake up, and I have to wait. Shit, let me rewind the movie, and I go back to that point, and then I fell asleep again, and then I had to go back and watch it for a third time because I was just so out of. And it wasn't even like I was. It's not even like other things were interfering. I just thought everything about the fantasy Chinese mythology that this movie is trying to communicate was done so poorly. And it feels like the movie itself doesn't really have a good window into how you're supposed to get this information, because Jackie Chan, when the kid first falls into the world and meets Jackie Chan, he gives him this big long speech about all of the mythology that he is supposed to know, and you're just kind of held there prisoner as he tells you this whole giant story. And then the movie does very little, if anything, to try and give you any sort of parallels between the story he's being told and the journey that this kid is on. And like you said, by the time you get to the end, this kid's got nothing to do. He really has no agency in this story aside from just carrying the stick so that the Monkey King can get it. So consequently, because he's our point of view character, nothing that he interacts with I end up giving any shit about. And so every time something is happening around him, it always just feels like it's glossing over me because I have no anchor or nothing to care about to make me invested in the mythology. And then the little bit of mythology that we do get feels so disconnected from any sort of real consequence. Jackie Chan has that one line really early on where he's like, if you die here, you're going to die there. But like, that feels almost meaningless. Like, that doesn't establish any risk or danger. There's no conversation at any point about like, hey, you're kind of a shy, nervous kid. Maybe Kung Fu can help you become more sure of yourself and face your demons and ask out that girl. Or like, hey, do you fall into the fantasy of martial arts because you're too afraid to fight your own demons? That's what this journey is about. None of that. There's no character arc or theming with this character at all, and it just makes the whole experience for me really boring.
I could definitely see where you're coming from on that. The white boy POV isekai fucking character is definitely the most boring part of this, and I don't know. I guess for me, I'm just kind of glad that's the case because I didn't really want the white boy to be the most important character in the universe. So the fact that trope gets subverted and they just, you just follow fucking Jackie Chan and Jet Li around and get, fun, cool fights with them, made me happier. The villainous witch character with the fucking whip and the hair whip was cool. I don't know, I just enjoyed some creative fights with them and stuff. Let me just ask you this, though, because we've kind of danced around a little bit. How did you feel just about Jet Li as Sun Wukong? Because I thought that was, like, very against type for him.
I liked it in the flashback sequence that Jackie Chan narrates, where he's just fooling around, and you get to see him fight that one guy, and then he gets tricked into letting his staff go. I thought Jet Li did a pretty good job in that. My biggest problem is I feel like the movie doesn't have like the balls to just let Jet Li be fun and goofy in that Monkey King Sun Wukong outfit, and so it needs to inject a character who is more like Jet Li into the movie, also played by Jet Li as that silent white monk. And I just felt like that undercut the novelty of seeing him as the Monkey King. Because the Monkey King's really only in this movie for like 3 scenes. And he's awesome in all 3 of those scenes. But it's really hard for me to appreciate because so much of the parts of the movie are just generic Jet Li character who's actually Jet Li. And the Monkey King stuff is more just like a novelty cameo.
It is so weird because you hear, Jet Li, Jackie Chan movie where with Sun Wukong in it, and like, oh yeah, Jackie Chan should be Sun Wukong. That just writes itself. And then they have Jet Li playing him going against type, and it's like, but why? I just
Right.
don't understand that decision whatsoever. And it's not that he does a bad job, but I mean, like, Jackie Chan's right there.
Especially because, like, and I like Jet Li movies here and there, but Jet Li is a lot like Jason Statham when you mentioned him earlier. He just doesn't have a lot of charisma. He's stoic and he looks dangerous and he looks like he's going to fuck you up because he's going to fuck you up, but he doesn't have a ton of range, and he never really has. And it just feels weird to like throw him into that role, like you said, when Jackie Chan's right there. And I thought he did a pretty good job for the bits that we got of him in that role. And it just feels like it's a shame because either he didn't want to do it or they didn't want to write more stuff with him in that costume or what. But it's such an odd casting choice. And it's not like you're getting the novelty of, well, I'll take all the set dressing as long as I get to see a bunch of Jackie Chan versus Jet Li madness, because it only happens once.
Yeah, yeah, and their fight is like fun, but I don't know if it really like lasts long enough or is enough of a set piece to kind of justify the rest of the movie. I can't help
Right.
but feel like, again, if just one of them were comfortable playing the villain, if you just got, you know, Sun Wukong, Jackie Chan versus Jade Emperor, Jet Li would have gone fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like I just,
Well, and that
it's so bad when you sit there and try to reimagine the movie from pitch, but I don't know if Jet Li just doesn't want to play the. I don't think he's ever played a bad guy in anything. I think the closest you got was War with Jason Statham, where like really he was secretly the good guy the whole time.
well, it's a little bit like, and I know we were talking about Nightmare on Elm Street the other day, but it's a little bit like Freddy versus Jason. Where like, if you really want to sit down and talk about Freddy versus Jason, it's not a particularly great movie by any stretch. But you know what it gives us? It gives
Freddy
us a
versus
really
Jason.
cool fight. Right. It gives us a really cool fight where Freddy kicks Jason's ass. And then it gives us another really cool fight where Jason kicks Freddy's ass, and it's awesome. It's also like Heat, right? Like Heat was a big '90s milestone where Al Pacino and Robert De Niro got to share the screen together. They both got to play characters that were on opposing sides of the law, but they were the hero of their own story. And getting to see those two together go at it and give us a moment of like setting the stakes for both of them and letting one of them win and still giving the other one something that they lost by losing this person that understands them. All of that drama, you can do a lot with a little bit. De Niro and Pacino only have one scene together in Heat, famously, when they sit down at the coffee shop. And it's really a shame that, like, if you were going to build this as Jackie Chan and Jet Li, they're in this movie together a lot. But they have, like, one scene where they fight, and they have one scene where they kind of bicker. And they really don't do anything to, like, play up the novelty of, like, having these two guys here at the same time, these two different generations of martial arts star, these two different styles of martial arts filmmaking. They don't play into either of their personas at all. And if you're going to make that kind of movie, I feel like the actor has to come before the story, where the story could be anything, but you're writing around the persona that the audience wants to see. People want to see Robert Englund as Freddy beat up Jason, and vice versa. It doesn't matter what you write into the story as long as you deliver on that. People want to see drunken master Buster Keaton, Jackie Chan against super stoic, deadly Jet Li, and they just do the opposite for both of them.
Yeah, again, I like the fight that we do get. It's not a bad fight. It's as you said. It's much more like cued to Jet Li's style than it is to Jackie Chan. But even then, you still get like a little bit of the drunken master stuff going in there. Like when he, gets up slowly, drinking out of the gourd. That's decent. And he's got a little bit of it. Jet Li going into the fucking praying mantis style, and them just like mantis countered by tiger, like just classic. Which is like that kind of leads into another part of this, because I don't want to just shit on the movie the whole time. One thing that I did appreciate about this is it is like very aware that it is inspired by or trying to pay tribute to the like kung fu movie explosion of the 70s and early 80s, that like Jackie Chan kind of got big off of and stuff. Those early like the reaction to the Bruce Lee films kind of thing. So you get a lot of like little winks and nods to just that style of genre film. In particular, the praying mantis countered by tiger style.
Well, but and this is my other problem with it. It wants to be a love letter to martial arts movies, which you get from the opening scene when you see this kid's room and they're just decked out with martial arts posters, and the opening title sequence has a bunch of famous martial arts posters, and most prominently Bruce Lee. But this movie is really good at just quoting things that people vaguely understand, like the aphorism about emptying your cup, or the bit where they mention the way of the intercepting fist, which is Bruce Lee's martial arts philosophy. But what he says doesn't actually make any sense in that context. So in that scene, the Jet Li and Jackie Chan are arguing about how to train the kid, and Jet Li is like, he needs to learn like the technique and how to punch and all that stuff, and then the white guy is like, oh, I know what that is. That's the way of the intercepting fist. Except that's not what that is. That's not what that is at all. The Jeet Kune Do, or the way of the intercepting fist, is that you react to your opponent. Jet Li just told you that you need to learn how to hit. That is literally the opposite of Jeet Kune Do. So it's one of those things where like it feels very much like it wants to be a love letter to martial arts films. And I'm not a martial arts film expert by any stretch, but if I know you're full of shit when you quote it, yeah, like Kung Fu Panda is a better love letter to martial arts films than this, because it actually understands the references it's giving out, and they're not just throwing out lines. They do actually kind of fit narratively with what the characters are saying and doing. And I feel like this movie is really lazy about that kind of stuff, where if you interrogate any one scene that has one of those deep pulls, it either is completely contradictory to what that scene is referencing, or it just feels like it's either misquoting it or misunderstanding it. I would have been more okay with that if I thought the action was worth all of the bad story decisions and all the bad martial arts references. But because the action doesn't live up to the hype either, it just makes me want to zero in and nitpick that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. So is there anything about the movie that like did actually work for you, or did actually like kind of get you over the line at all, or was it just a slog the whole way through?
I like Jet Li, and in the flashback sequences when we get to see him actually be full on Sun Wukong and mess with the Jade Emperor and make a clown of that general guy. Like, I thought that stuff was really entertaining, and I wish more of the movie was geared around that stuff. And some of the wire fu is pretty good. Like, it's not like all of it's bad, but a majority of it just really doesn't work for me. I think the fight that he has early on, when you first meet Jackie Chan and he's actually doing like Drunken Fist style, I thought that was a pretty good introduction. And I like some of the stuff that they do with the Jet Li Bruce Lee fight in the middle of the movie, but for the most part, it was kind of a slog for me.
Okay. Again, I think I enjoyed it more than you. The bit where, train me, and then it just cuts to him just fucking, Karate Kid style training and just doing mundane shit over and over and over again. It's like, no, I want you to actually teach me martial arts. Okay, fine. Comes over, grabs the stick, hits him. That is called strike. Tomorrow I will teach you block. Fucking killed me. I was cracking up about that for a while. So, like, some of the writing was actually quite, like, fun and a little bit witty. I don't know, like, if it was just trying to be a trope or something, but I liked the way that the Sparrow Girl talked. That was like a weird little quirk of her character. It's like she talked in the third
She said like they?
No, she said she when she was talking about herself. I just thought that was interesting. Just a weird little like quirk of writing, so I enjoyed that. And I liked again, I actually liked her character quite a bit. in regards to them talking about no wanting vengeance and only going for vengeance will lead to your downfall, and they just yeah no that's just what happens. Like that's again, you don't see that very often in movies where like you just let a character embrace revenge and it just spells their doom. I thought that was actually quite good, to just show the object lesson as opposed to save her at the last minute or have her change her mind and like forgive. Especially the thing that always drives me crazy about this this subplot or element, whatever you want to call it, of this trope of storytelling. Forgive the person that wronged you. No, fuck that. Don't forgive them. I fucking hate that plot point. So
Did you
actually getting that and then having it go through and have consequences. I don't know. I quite enjoyed that.
did you not feel like it was a little undercut though when he gets back to the present and he just meets a girl that looks exactly like her?
I just interpreted that as reincarnation because it's given the context of he didn't go to an alternate universe, he just went to the past. So, that's what 500, 600 whatever years later, she's just been reincarnated. That's how I interpreted that. So, that just kind of works for me.
I guess
in a different way.
it just doesn't feel like a consequence to me because she just gets the happy ending with him at the end anyway, and because the movie's not really doing anything to make the relationship between the past and the present matter, it feels like it's just arbitrary to just throw her in at the end and be like, oh no, by the way, everything that you experienced was real, and here's that hot Asian chick that you wanted to date from the past.
Yeah. I can't deny it, but maybe she had to spend like 100 years as a fucking grasshopper in between. So I'll just fucking headcanon that. It works. She had to like climb the karmic ladder and get back to. Or nah, you actually that's not how that works. But still,
It just felt to me like when she shows up in the movie, she shows up out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And then when she has her little arc on the side, it feels like there's so much stuff that we're supposed to interpret about the white kid's journey throughout this like hero's journey archetype, where she's not getting enough actual screen time to have her own arc. And then at the end, you're right, she just tries to have revenge and dies. But all of that is so tertiary to the other stuff happening in the movie that's also not being explored, that when she dies, I didn't feel anything. And then it ultimately didn't matter that I didn't feel anything, because he just wakes up having learned everything with no context, and then she's just back.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I'm not saying it's a great narrative thing, but like you're talking about, 10 seconds at the end of the movie. I don't know. It just didn't undercut the emotional resonance I got by just having the character, out for vengeance, actually have that go badly for them. I don't know. It worked for me because I did just fully interpret the girl at the end as a different character within a certain context. So, I don't know. I liked it more than you, but I still didn't love it, so it just puts me in this weird place where I sound like I'm going to be defending it, where I'm like, no, you're right. It's not a very, clear-cut good decision, but I still enjoyed it, so, deal with that.
One thing that I was really surprised by is the cinematographer for this movie is somebody who's actually done a lot of really good and really famous martial arts movies, including Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And of course, his filmography isn't perfect. There's still going to be shit out there that isn't good. But I was surprised by how bad I thought this movie looked, where even when they're on location, it feels flat and green screened, even though it's not. And moments where it seems like the lighting is just washing out all the colors, and some camera work where you're pulled back enough so that the actors can be in frame moving around fighting and you can appreciate it, except it's not blocked in a way where you can actually see what they're fighting and doing. It's surprising because like this style of fantasy martial arts movie is all about the big wide angle shots and seeing someone leap from one corner of the frame to the other, but so much of the action is shot so tightly that it completely undercuts the effect of them being on wires.
Yeah, I I had a different problem with the visuals of this, which is that I watched it on streaming, and this had a lot of really big, wide, moving shots with lots of things on the screen at once. And I have really good internet speed. The fucking buffering system could not keep up with all that. It's not like I watched like a shitty like, you know, YouTube upload or some other fucking third party website. Like I downloaded an app that had this as like, you know, watch on demand with ads and stuff. So like it should have had I do not put this to any kind of like connection error. I put this fully on, just sometimes streaming just looks shit. Because you're still depending on like a buffering kind of thing. So like that shot where he's running through the bamboo forest before the monk version of Jet Li takes the staff, just potatoes. My screen looks like potatoes. And similar to the also in the fight with like all the fucking anime trees, just that whole sequence, absolute potatoes. I just big old blocky pixels all over the screen, and I was pretty annoyed. I think that was just 100% because of the shortcomings of streaming as like a media thing. It doesn't happen often, especially like a lot of things that are made for streaming kind of take that into account and try not to do that. What was the fucking there's that YouTube channel Slow Mo Guys, where they wanted to film something that they knew YouTube compression would not allow to function. So they filmed glitter being like projected around a room in super fucking 1,000 frames per second slow motion, and it's a cool video, but it's a great payoff because all you get to watch is just big blocky pixels because compression and bandwidth and all the fucking technical details of streaming video just can't handle it, because they need to compress the video in order to make it streamable, because otherwise you'd be trying to deliver gigs and then you'd have no like actual motion. You'd be buffering for 3 hours, and it just breaks, and I think that's what I dealt with here. So I have less to say about the visuals outside of that, but this was an interesting one because it's rare that I run into a movie where it just actually looks shit because of the technology of streaming.
That does kind of get into an interesting sort of philosophy on want to make these sorts of movies, because this is clearly a big budget Hollywood movie. Like, it's not an enormous budget, but it's a big budget. It's a big budget movie. It's got two really big stars. It's a big fantasy epic. It's got a high production value to it. Mm-hmm. And when you compare that to the kinds of movies that Jet Li and Jackie Chan, early Jet Li, not later Jet Li, would have been doing, they're a really low budget and really guerrilla, and Jackie Chan would just be running through the street, and they would just carry all the pedestrians would be on camera as extras. And one of the charms of watching martial arts movies, as this kid in the opening knows, is that you're accessing them through like bootlegs and old used video stores, and they're not going to be remastered. And even if they are, they all look kind of shitty. And that's just part of the charm of them, is that they do a lot with a little. And I find like certain genres or certain styles of movies just naturally don't take to trying to make them look really clean and pristine like horror movies. Like there's just something wrong with watching a slasher in 4K because part of the gritty, grainy look of it that disappears when you make it too high definition makes it lose a bit of the charm. And a lot of modern horror movies, they just look too digital and too pristine. They're not dirty enough. They don't have that sort of like low budget quality. And I kind of struggled with that with this one a little bit, where like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon's a beautiful movie. It's a prestige movie, but there is still the way the costume and the minimalist set design and the general color palette of the movie, it still gives it like a low-key vibe. And this feels like it's almost overproduced, where it's got all the Hollywood glitz and glamour of trying to make it a big fantasy epic, when I really feel like it needed to be more stripped down of like, yeah, this is just a monk on a horse, and this is just a desert, or this is just a prairie, and this is just a big empty steel column room that might be a castle in an establishing shot. And and it's not like a matter of like you need to make it look shitty inauthentically. I think it's just a matter of like understanding the genre and the audience you're with, where like if you're going to be in conversation with classic martial arts movies and make an ode to those things, then part of that is trying to make it look a little bit more stripped down and effortless as opposed to high effort.
I could see that. Part of what I think might be going on here is kind of looking at the time this came out. So this is 2008. That's also, of course, the year of the Beijing Olympics, which is kind of seen as a an opening up or like a transitionary period within modern Chinese history, where they're like, no, now we're ready for the rest of the world to really see us. We've been doing all this development for years, so now we're like actually ready to be back on the world stage. And so like I think that this is is conscious of that with Jackie Chan, like, you know, not even disparagingly, but just like pretty frankly saying, oh no, I make American movies to make money, and then I make movies in China that are actually good.
Right.
And just a lot of I'm not sure what Jet Li's like full background is, but I think he's done a bit of the same. So like the fact that a lot of this is clearly shot on location in China, and at least I hope so. Otherwise, they did an absolutely phenomenal job with some of this. But like it just a lot of that I think lends itself to that, and so they're trying to just make it big and grandiose, and trying to deliver the idea of we're not some backwards piss ass country. We are a, you know, beautiful place. We have, you know, these wide sweeping rolling landscapes. There was an interesting couple years ago like apology, I guess you'd call it, from National Geographic for like fetishizing and like, you know, downgrading countries around the world to make them look like primitive and not part of the modern day.
Yeah.
Like they're just the intentional, always going to like the most backward rural parts of all these countries, and kind of displaying it as if that just is more so like in particular with like Africa and India than with a place like China, but even still China got a good share of it too. So I don't know, I think that might be kind of going on a little bit in the background, but again, that's, you know, more ethereal and not necessarily part of the movie itself. But again, 2008 is a very particular year within the Chinese context.
No, I mean, I think that is an important element of the history of this movie, because it is also reinterpreting one of the most famous myths to come out of Asia with Journey to the West, and using this movie not necessarily as like propaganda, but like as a statement on the new way of looking at the country with two of its biggest stars who've been doing this for years, who'd at this point established themselves as Hollywood movie stars also, and making it an ode to classic martial arts movies. I think all of that probably on some level is intentional, and I think that's part of what hinders my enjoyment of it so much. Is it feels like for the kinds of stakes that surround this sort of production, it really feels like they come up short, despite feeling like everything should work with what you've got. Because one of the problems you have in these kinds of movies, where like you have classic Asian martial arts movie star and then American production, is the American actors just cannot keep up with the martial arts. One, because of the way stunt coordinating here works, but two, because a lot of them just aren't martial artists. Like, I love the John Wick movies. I think they're some of the best action movies of the decade, but Keanu's old. He does as many of the stunts as he can, but when he has to fight Donnie Yen, he moves really slow compared to Donnie Yen. And so the Donnie Yen action scenes that are the best are the ones where Donnie Yen just gets to fight other martial artists, and he's moving at like 3 times speed compared to when he fights Keanu. And that's a consistent problem anytime you have like white action star versus like martial arts movie star, where like the white action star just cannot keep up. And here you have an opportunity where that's not a problem. You've got Jackie Chan and Jet Li. If there are two guys who can keep up with each other filming action scenes, it's those two guys.
I was going to actually comment on that, because I remember when this came out, like seeing the trailers, and it had just been so long since I'd seen a trailer with Jackie Chan in it, and it just made me realize, oh man, he's a lot older now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's able to keep up with Jet Li at this point, or do you think that like he does look a little bit slower in comparison?
It's hard to know in the context of 2008. I think now he is definitely a lot slower, and the stuff I've seen him do recently is nowhere near his peak. Mm-hmm. I thought he, in this, looked a lot closer to his prime than you would expect for a guy as old as he was during the filming of this. Because him and Jet Li, Jackie Chan's older, but I don't think he's much older. Like, he might be 10 years older, which I'm sure, like, you know, in any sort of sport, 10 years is a long time. But I think at this point in time, Jackie Chan would have been able to keep up with Jet Li mostly fine. Jesus Christ,
Jackie Chan is 71.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
Right now.
And I think Jet Li's like 60, right? Like, so they're not super far.
So almost exactly 10 years. Real close, yeah. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the big difference though is, and maybe this is part of why they could only have one fight, maybe, I don't know. I think the part of the difference is Jackie Chan's taken way more wear and tear than Jet Li has by this point. Like, Jet Li had the benefit of starting to make movies when more worker protections in martial arts and Hong Kong movies started to be established. When Jackie Chan started his career, he was just like getting thrown into buildings and cars and shit. He'd probably had more surgeries than Jet Li's ever had in his entire life.
No, I buy it. I do think that like that's pretty trackable over the course of Jackie Chan's career, because like his whole thing that made him like 90s famous was, I do all my own stunts, right? Like,
right.
And
right.
like, I think that was like the biggest thing that made Jackie Chan famous. It wasn't the quality of the movies. It wasn't the like co-star with Owen Wilson or Chris Tucker or whatever. It was just that, like, I do all my own stunts, and it became like such a thing that all the other actors started chasing that kind of high. Of being able to say, I do my own stunts. I think Tom Cruise, for years, has just been jealous of Jackie Chan.
Well, and I mean, he's in the same tradition of, like, he will do all of his own stunts. It's just Jackie Chan was doing them way more extreme for much longer.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I do think you, like, saw a fall off of Jackie Chan where, like, you know, yeah, you do all your own stunts, that's great, but also that's a good way to die and get injured. And so like I remember seeing interviews with Jackie Chan where he talked about like all the injuries he's had and stuff. Funny enough, before I'd even mentioned any kind of martial arts stuff, I cracked out. I got on YouTube and I searched it up and I did find it. I'm debating if I want to continue, but I did rewatch the first episode of the Jackie Chan animated series.
Oh, that show was so good! I loved that show. The one where they had the talismans with different powers, and then in one Oni masks. It was so cool.
Yeah, I know. So I'm debating watching more of that, but yeah.
I think like the first couple seasons of that, Jackie Chan would show up at the end of each episode and like answer a fan question. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember that was like a whole thing. So I was curious about that, but like the fact that he did that, right? Like he's still voicing himself in it, but it's Jackie Chan animated, right? So that way he doesn't have to be doing like physical action. Also, it's a television series, so you know that. He's not gonna put himself on the line every week, and his star power was such that he could do his own animated series that's just called the Jackie Chan Adventures, right? Where he played Chinese Indiana Jones. It was dope.
Right.
But like, just the star power of that, and but the fact that like he would do something like that as a pivot away. I think the other like movie that's kind of contemporary with this was the Tuxedo, where like he was a spy, but the like tux made him a super martial artist or whatever. Because I want to say that was like 2005, and this is '08, but like you could definitely see that he'd like slowed down a lot. So I'm wondering though, to get us back to the movie itself, if maybe one of the other reasons we don't get a ton of Jet Li versus Jackie Chan stuff is Jackie might just not have been up to speed with Jet Li at that point, especially with what you were talking about of just like the different fighting styles. It would have been cool. I feel like if you're gonna do, you know, that Freddy versus Jason kind of thing, I feel like the best structure of it needs to do a 3-fight kind of thing. Where you need to have one fight for the fans of the one character where that character gets to win, and then vice versa, and then you need to do the fight that's like for the movie itself, like to solve the plot or like settle it. And it's obviously going to piss off one group of fans no matter what you do, but I just feel like you kind of need that, and that's what I would have liked to see from this movie is...
Yeah.
And again, you could have done it if you had like reworked the cast and had Jet Li play the Jade Emperor, because you could have the first fight where you know, Monkey King wins, and then you get the rematch later on. You just throw in a third fight in there. You could have made that work.
So,
but hey,
in that sense, one of the things that kind of bothers me about the setup to Jackie Chan versus Jet Li in this is I think it kind of betrays one of the primary rules of what Jackie Chan's movie persona is, and that's why it feels so weak to me, where Jackie Chan is never the instigator. The whole point of Jackie Chan's character in all of his movies is he is a guy who, like Looney Tunes style, gets into a situation and all of his martial arts is accidental or reciprocating or self-defense. He's always a guy bumbling into situations and bumbling his way out. And there's kind of a karmic justice to the people he beats up. And Jet Li's persona is very much the opposite. He is a lot more of like a Statham style, like action star. I mean, one of Jet Li's biggest movies is a remake of Fist of Fury, where the whole thing is like, his martial arts master gets disrespected, so he goes to the other schools and just beats the crap out of everyone. And so the fact that when that fight happens, it doesn't feel like Jet Li instigates it. It feels like it really sets Jackie Chan off on the wrong foot, because now not only are you doing a style of fight scene that feels antithetical to what Jackie Chan movies tend to do with the physical comedy, but it also like sets up Jackie Chan's character as something very different than what you're used to, even in his Hollywood movies. Because like even when you watch like Rush Hour or something, right? Jackie Chan's never the instigator. He just gets thrown into situations and starts beating people up. And it just feels so weird in this movie that he is like a warrior, and he's going through, and he's having these big bombastic fantasy fight scenes. And as he's aged, he started to do more of that stuff. But when you're billing the movie on Jackie Chan versus Jet Li, and you don't lean into who Jackie Chan is, it just feels like you've kind of done us a disservice.
Yeah. I don't know. I think so much of this just might be like, maybe it just shouldn't have been done because it seems like it just underserves both guys to a degree. And it might be some of that, like, it could just be in the script. It also just kind of reeks to me of that, like, behind the scenes, you know, diva movie star kind of things. Because again, I remember hearing interviews with Jackie Chan years ago where he's like, oh no, I won't play a villain. And I'm like, but dude, you could be so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know how wild it would be for Jackie Chan to be the villain of a movie? That would be insane. But he just doesn't want to do it, like, because of, you know, his, as you were saying, like, his persona of movie stardom and whatever. And, like, fair enough, whatever. But, like, goddamn, he could be so cool.
There's something, too, about, like, those kinds of charismatic actors that would make, like, the most threatening villains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be a fun one. But, like, you might just have that of, like, maybe the Jade Emperor was originally supposed to be Jackie Chan, so, like, you'd have both of them playing against type. You know, you'd have Jet Li playing Sun Wukong, all, like, silly and goofy, and Jackie Chan playing, like, serious villain, and he's like, no, I'll do the movie, but I won't be the bad guy. And so they had to, like, fucking write in the drunken master kind of thing. I don't know if that would necessarily been the way it would go, but it just, that's like the vibe I'm getting. It just kind of reeks of that, like, behind the scenes petty diva energy.
Right.
All right. I think we're done on this one. I enjoyed it more than Steve, but I didn't love it. Steve thought it was the worst film ever made, and that he's owed an apology by the state of China. Is I think where we've gotten to on this one.
If Mao himself doesn't rise from the grave and order people to remake this, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, everyone, thanks so much for... Oh, wait, no, we got to do rating. I'll go ahead and I'll give this 2.5 out of 5 staffs that should weigh the equivalent of a giant stone pillar.
That's a good one. I will give this a 1 out of 5 old Chinese video store clerks that get gunned down.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right. Well, we'll be back next time for some other martial arts flick. Until then, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Luddite.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be...
I was not prepared for that.
After the movie was over last night, I turned it off and I got up, walked over to Haley, who was falling asleep on the couch, and I started doing right in her face. Like, really?
Oh, man. I mean, you...